Canto 28. Who, even with the freest flowing words, told and retold, could ever quite describe the scene of bloody suffering then I saw? For surely any tongue that tried would fail. The shallow depths of language and of speech are not sufficient to understand such pain. If all those men were stood here together, who once on Apulia's fateful earth mourned their life-blood shed at the Trojans' hands, as well as those who fell in the long war that ended with great spoil of looted rings, as Livy truly writes in his history, and those who felt the agony of wounds, taking a stand against Robert Guiscard, those others, too, whose bones are still heaped up at Ceprano, where each Apulian proved false, and add Tagliacozza, where unarmed old Alado gained the day. And if every one should display their limbs, hacked off or pierced through, it would still not be as the gory horrors of the 9th ditch. No barrel burst its splintered hoops. Wider than the soul I saw, split from chin to arse, so his guts hung out down between his knees, and the sack that turns whatever swallowed into ordure. While I watched intently, he looked at me, and with his hands opened his chest wide and said, "See how I tear myself. See how Mohammed is a mangled thing. Ali makes his way before me weeping, his face split from the hairline to the chin. These spirits you see around you here sowed schism and dissension in their lives, for in this death you see them ripped apart. Back there a devil butchers us, each one, again and again, slicing with his sword because our wounds close up round this circuit, healed by the time we are where he stands. But who are you dallying on the bridge and trying to put off perhaps going to the place that your punishment decreed when you confessed and the sentence was passed?"
"He is not death's yet. He is not called here by his guilt to suffer," my master said, "but so he may gain full experience. I, who am dead, must lead him through each round of hell, circle after circle, until we reach the very bottom. This is true, as I stand here speaking before you now."
On hearing this, more than 100 souls forgot their torment and paused in stupor to look at me in their astonishment. "And you, who will perhaps soon see the sun, tell Fra Dolcino, unless he wishes to follow me here quick, to arm himself with stocks of food. If he doesn't, the snow will grant the Novarese a victory they might otherwise not find so easy." Mohammed, while he spoke, kept one foot raised as if to go, then, having spoken, went. Another sinner, his throat slashed through, his nose sheared off, and one ear remaining, stopped to gaze at me in stricken wonder. Stepping from the group, and baring his throat, he exposed its bloody insides to view, and spoke.
"O you, whom guilt has not condemned, whose face I knew above in Italy, unless some similarity deceives, recall to mind Pier de Medicina, if you return to see the gentle plain that slopes from Vercelli to Macabo, and tell Guido and Angiolello, if we have any foresight here in hell, they will drown by a tyrant's butchery, tied in a sack and bundled from their ships near Cattolica. Neptune never saw from Mallorca to Cyprus such a crime committed by pirates or the archives."
One with both hands severed then stepped forward, raising the stumps to his face, spattering his cheeks with the blood in the murky air.
"Remember Mosca," he shouted, "who said, 'Once done, it's finished with.' Seeds of evil for the Tuscan people."
He heard me add, "And death to your family line." At which, with pain heaped on top of pain, he left, grieving like one driven mad with sadness. But I stayed there, watching the company, and saw a sight that I should be afraid to speak of had I not seen it myself. And that clear conscience, man's good companion, gives me my confidence. I saw, and now I see it still, a headless corpse that walked. Just like the others in that dismal herd, the corpse was carrying its hacked-off head by the hair, swinging it like a lantern. It stared at us and made a sound of pain. He was himself and his lamp, 2 in 1, 1 in 2. How this thing can be, he knows who willed it by decree. Below the bridge he raised the arm up high that grasped the head so we might hear his words, which were,
"Look well on my monstrous torment, you who come still, breathing to view the dead, and then tell me if there is a punishment worse than this. And so you may carry back news of me. Know this, I am Bertrand de Born, who gave such evil counsel to the youthful king. I set father and son against each other. Achitophel no less encouraged hate to grow between David and Absalom, because I parted those united bonds. I bear my head, severed from its life source. Observe in me perfect retribution."
Canto 29. So many souls, so many different wounds, had made my sight intoxicated. I longed to stay and weep in sympathy. But Virgil said to me, "Why stare so hard? Why insist on lingering here to watch among these lost and mutilated shades? You moved on quickly from other valleys. If you hope to make a count, remember the circle runs round for 22 miles. The moon is already beneath our feet. Our allotted time begins to run short, and there is much more which you have not seen." "Had you considered why I was looking," I began, "you might have let me stay on." But my guide had already moved ahead, so I spoke as I was walking after him. "Somewhere in that ditch I stared at just now, I think there is a spirit of my kin, mourning the debt which never can be paid." My guide answered me, "Think no more of that, attend to other things, and leave him there. I noticed him standing beneath the bridge, pointing a threatening finger at you, and heard his name called, Jerry del Bello. This was while you were so preoccupied with the Lord of Altoforte, and why you did not look at him before he left." "Oh, my guide, it was his death by violence, not yet avenged by those who share the shame, which made him so disdainful. This, I think, is why he continued without a word, and only makes me pity him the more." And so we spoke, continuing along the bridge until we reached the point from where, with more light, we would have seen the bottom of the next valley. From our position there, high up above the final cloister of the Malibolgi, we saw exposed beneath us its tortured congregation. Strange-sounding lamentations pierced me like arrows barbed with pity, and with this I had to raise my hand to block my ears. The noises of suffering were as if crammed in one ditch. There were all the diseased of the Val di Chiana hospital, and from Maremma and Sardinia between the July and September months, with the fetid stench of their rotting limbs. Still keeping to the left, we descended the long ridge to the final bank, and here the view was clearer, revealing the depths where justice, infallible minister of the Lord, deals her punishment to those registered as falsifiers. The pain, I think, cannot have been greater when all Aegina was stricken with plague, and pestilence was carried in the air, so every animal to tiny worms succumbed. The ancient people, it's claimed by poets to be the truth, were restored later on from the families of ants. Then, here along the murky valley floor, where shades lay languishing in scattered heaps, some were sprawled on another's stomach, some across a spirit's back, or moving on all fours, crawling along the dismal track. We went on in silence, walking slowly, to hear and see in their disease the souls who lacked sufficient strength to raise themselves. I saw, too, sitting propped up, back to back, like pans left out to dry, each one with scabs covering their bodies from head to toe. And I've never seen a stable boy who knows his master is waiting for him, or one kept from his sleep reluctantly to ply the currycomb with such speed as these applied their nails to scratch themselves, clawing at their flesh, maddened by a fierce and raging itch allowing no relief. Their nails scraped down the scabs like a knife shearing scales from bream, or some bigger fish with coarser scales. "You, who scrape your armour with fingers making do for pincers," my guide began addressing one of them.
May your fingers be forever equal to their task throughout eternity. Are there souls from Italy with you here?
We are ourselves Italian, the two disfigured wretches you see before you,
one answered through his tears.
But who you who ask this of us?
My guide said to them, I am journeying together with him. This living man descending from circle to circle, I mean to show him all hell. With this their mutual support broke off. Both turned to look. So did others who heard. Drawing close to me, my kind master said, Speak now. Ask them anything you want to. So I began speaking, just as he said. That memory of you may never fade from men's minds in the world above. Rather, so it lives on under many suns. Tell us who you are and where you come from. And don't let your foul and loathsome torment inhibit you from speaking openly. One answered me,
I was from Arezzo. Albero of Siena had me burned, but what I died for does not bring me here. It's true I told him, but joking, of course. I knew how to fly myself through the air. He, curious but not so blessed with sense, wanted a demonstration of the art. Then, because I failed to make him Daedalus, the one whom he called father had me burned. I was dispatched to this 10th and last ditch by Minos, who does not err in judgment. For the alchemy I practiced living.
To the poet I said, Was there ever a people so vain as the Sienese? Even the French cannot compare with them. The other leprous creature, hearing this, responded to me.
Excepting Stricker, who knew how to spend in moderation, and Niccolo first to introduce the clove in that garden where such fancies take root, and leading Cacciadaciano's club, where he squandered his vineyards and forests, and where Abbagliato displayed his wit. But so you know who is your second here against the Sienese? Look closely here. My face will give you clues to help you guess. Capuccio's ghost, the counterfeiter of metals with the aid of alchemy. Surely you'll recall, if I trust my eyes, the masterful ape of nature I was.
Canto 30. When Juno, furious with Semele, showed her wrath against those of Theban blood time and time again, and when Athamas was driven so mad by her that, seeing his wife passing by, cradling both their sons, he cried, Now let us spread the nets and catch the lioness together with her cubs. And reaching out with his pitiless claws, grasped the boy who bore the name Liakos, swung him round, and dashed him against a rock. She drowned herself then with the other son. Or as when, the wheel of fortune turning, brought low immeasurable Trojan pride, so the king together with his kingdom was destroyed. Wretched Hecuba, made slave, and crazed by grief after Polyxena was killed before her, and Polydorus, found unburied and washed up on the shore, began to bark like a dog. Yet no fury of Troy or Thebes could compete in rending beasts and even human limbs with those two shades I saw. Pale and naked, running round aimlessly biting at things like a pig does, broken loose from its sty. One threw himself on Capocchio's neck, and sank his teeth in deep, dragging him off, scraping his belly on the rocky ground. The Aretine, shaking, was left behind. Gianni Schicchi, that foul fiend, crazy, venting his fury like that on people. Oh, I replied, so that other shade never sinks its fangs in your back. Tell us what he's called before he vanishes. He said to me, That is the ancient soul of infamous Mera, whose love towards her father went beyond love's limits. She went to him disguised as another, and then sinned in love by lying with him. Just as the other spirit there, fleeing, masqueraded as Buoso Donati, and drew up a false will so that he might pick the best horse of his father's stable. When the rabid spirits had come and gone, whom I had eyed with such close attention, I turned to watch the other evil souls. One was fashioned exactly like a lute, had he only been cut off at the groin, from that part of his body where it forks. The heavy dropsy, swelling the body, with great bags of undrained fluid, making the face a poor match for his paunch, forced his parched lips to gape, one curling up, one down, like the fevered suffer with thirst.
"You who go in this grim world unpunished," he said, "why, I cannot think. Pause to look here on Master Adamo's misery. Alive, I had everything I could want. Now I crave the smallest drop of water, the little streams that trickle from the hills in Casentino down to the Arno. Their banks so cool and soft and damp flow before me constantly. I'm racked by their memory. Their image taunts me. It leaves me far more parched than this disease, which makes the flesh of my face waste away."
I asked him, "Who is that pair of wretches, steaming like damp hands do in the winter, lying next to your body?"
"They were here when I fell like rain on this rocky slope. They have not shifted yet, nor likely to, I think, until the end of time. First here, the false wife who lying accused Joseph. The second one seen on the lying Greek. The foul stench was from their burning fever."
At this, one who seemed to be offended, being so described, struck out with his fist at Adam's tight paunch, which boomed like a drum. Adam returned the blow, striking his face no less hard. He said,
"Though my massive limbs prevent me from moving, I have an arm free when I need it."
And the other says, "Not so free when they took you off to burn, that was quick enough for forgery." The dropsy one replies,
"May be true, but you did not manage the truth at Troy when they asked you for it."
"I faked truth as you faked coins," says Sinon, "but one lie, whereas your deeds rival any demon's."
"Enough, perjurer. Remember the horse,"
the one with the swollen belly retorts.
"May it rot you. The whole world knows your crime."
"May you rot with thirst that cracks your tongue," said the Greek, "and your paunch-ups swell with pus and hedge the world from view." The forger said,
"As usual, your jaws flat with fever. If I swell, you burn. If I thirst, you ache. It wouldn't take much persuading you to lick Narcissus's mirror."
I lingered, intent on listening to every word, until my master said, "Much longer here, and I'll quarrel with you." When I heard him speaking so in anger, I turned to him in such shame. My memory still keeps it fresh. As one who dreams he is harmed, may dreaming wish it were a dream, longing for what is. So I then became. Unable to speak, but yearning to excuse myself, I did, though I was unaware of doing so. "Far greater faults than you've been guilty of," my master said, "have been cleansed by less shame. So throw off your distress, and remember I am with you. If you again arrive where souls quarrel together in this way, wishing to listen is a base desire." Canto 31. The very tongue, whose sting gave colour to my cheeks, supplied in turn the balm. Exactly as, so I've heard, the spear both Achilles and his father bore, first dispensed the hurt, then the remedy. So we turned our backs on that valley of misery, climbing the bank that rings it to the other side, crossing in silence. It was not night here, nor was it day, so my sight was able to reach only a little way ahead. But now I could hear the blast of a horn, so loud a thunderclap would have seemed faint. My eyes were drawn by the sound to one place, retracing its path to its origin. Not even Roland's horn, blown in defeat when Charlemagne had lost his sacred guard, sounded a blast so ominous as this. Keeping my gaze fixed in that direction, I made out a cluster of tall towers. "Master," I said, What city lies ahead? Peering that way to penetrate the dark at such a distance, your mind goes astray. He said, "You'll realize when you arrive how much the view has deceived your senses, so push on a little more." Then kindly he took my hand. "Before we move closer, so it may seem less strange to you," he said, "it is a ring of giants, not towers, each one sunk to his navel in the pit." As through a mist which begins to clear, the vision gradually finds a shape that was hidden in the thicker vapour. So I began to penetrate the murk, coming nearer to the well. As error left me, terror came crowding in its place. For as on Monteregione's walls, tall towers appeared to crown the circle, so here the bank that runs around the pit had, with half their bulk, towering above. Horrifying giants that Jupiter still threatens when he rumbles with thunder. I could see the face of one already, the shoulders, chest, and most of his stomach, and both his great arms hanging by his sides. When nature left off making such beings, she acted well indeed to deprive Mars of instruments like these. If elephants and whales are still produced without repent, subtle thinking finds this discreet and just. When reason, evil minds, and massive strength combine, mankind is left without defence. To me, his face appeared as huge and high as the great pine cone of St. Peter's, Rome. All his other bones were in proportion, so the bank, covering his lower half, showed above it such a height as 3 men from Friesland piled up could not reach his hair. For down from where men fasten up their cloak, a reach of 30 hands could be seen.
"Raphael, Maia exabielmi."
His savage mouth began to bellow forth. No sweeter psalm was suitable. My guide addressed him.
"Soul, in your stupidity, keep at your horn. Use that to vent your rage when sudden fits of passion touch you. Look down your neck. Find the strap on which it hangs."
Then he turned to me. "Damned by his own words, he is Nimrod, and through his evil thought there is no common language for the world. Let's leave him and waste no more words here, for every language is to him as his sounds to others. No one understands it." Turning to the left, we continued on until a bowshot distant we found the next, a giant fiercer and even more vast. Which master had him fettered as he was, who could say? But he was bound by a chain, his right arm behind, the other in front, which wound 5 times round his visible part. "This proud creature chose to test out his strength against the might of highest Jupiter," declared my guide. "So this is his reward. His name is Ephialtes. It was he, when the giants struck fear into the gods, who challenged them with such awesome endeavour. The arms he moved then, he cannot move now." And I said to him, "If it's possible, I'd like to see immense Briareus." He replied, "Quite close to here you can see Antaeus, who can speak and is not bound. He will set us on the very floor of hell. The one you ask of is some way distant, chained up and just as huge as this one here, but more ferocious in his appearance." No earthquake ever made a tower shake with greater force than when Ephialtes suddenly shook himself. I feared to die more than ever before. The fear itself would have killed me had I not seen his chains. We left him and moved on to Antaeus, who, without his head, projected above the well in the rock 5 full ells or more. "You who lived within that famous valley where Scipio was made heir to glory, when Hannibal with his army turned back, who snared 1,000 lions as your prey, and who, had you taken your brother's part in the epic war, as some men would say, would have brought the sons of earth victory. Do not disdain to lower us to where the ice locks Cocytus fast. Don't send us to Typhon or Tityphus, for this man is able to supply what's craved for here. Bend down here now, don't sneer and curl your lip. This man can give you back your fame on earth. He lives, and expects to live on longer, unless summoned by grace before his time." So spoke my master, and at once those hands whose grip clasped Hercules with all its force stretched out and caught my leader. When Virgil felt the holds tightening, he said, "Come closer, so I may seize hold of you." Then he made one single bundle of himself and me. Just as the tower at Garisenda looks, from under the leaning side, about to crash when a cloud goes by, so now Antaeus seemed as I stood there, waiting fearfully as he leant over. Just then I'd have preferred a different road. He set us down gently on the bottom, within the pit that swallowed Lucifer and Judas. He did not stay leaning down, but rose again like the mast of a ship.